Piercing yourself at home. Coming up next on Body Piercing Basics, episode number 67. So stick around. For those that are new to the channel, my name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I own and operate the Axiom Body Piercing Studio located here in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. So when I talk to you about this, I'm talking to you at a level of expertise as someone who's been in the industry for well over a quarter of a century. If you are coming here and probably thinking you're going to get instructions on how to pierce yourself at home, you're going to be sadly disappointed. However, I think that if you are considering doing those things, that you should watch this video and understand why it is not a good idea. In fact, it's downright dangerous. So let's get into it. I get weird little questions on comments all the time, and I've watched a lot of videos on the internet of people piercing themselves and cringe as they do things that aren't really great and are dangerous and unhealthy and don't come out with good results. I know you may think that all these people on TikTok and YouTube and etc. are producing these great piercings, but the reality is you rarely see the aftermath. You see the piercing itself maybe, and you might see a short photo or video of it 5 seconds after it's done. The real problems will probably arise afterwards in that healing period. So let's get into some of the reasons why I would not suggest piercing yourself at home. First thing is things you don't have at home. You do not have a hospital-grade autoclave or sterilizer to properly sterilize the equipment that you're going to be using. I know you're going to say, yeah, I got it off Amazon and it's in a package and it's brand new. That doesn't mean anything. The thing is that most of those materials are manufactured in third world countries, and they are put into those packages by people with hands. And those hands touch surfaces and counters and everything else. So even though you might be able to get a needle that's sterile or a jewelry or a piece of jewelry that's sterile, the tools that you're using and everything else isn't and may be contaminated. So they need to be autoclaved or sterilized. Now you can't do this at home. I know people will try boiling water. I know people will try doing pressure cookers. I know people that'll dip it in bleach or just rub it really good with some rubbing alcohol. None of these things really work. When we say sterile, what sterile is a 100% annihilation. Actually, it's 99.9% annihilation of all living organisms on that material. You cannot achieve that with home remedies. It's impossible. The second thing is, you don't have a space that is only used for piercing, like that over there. You are going to pierce yourself in your basement, the bathroom, your friend's room, your room, the kitchen. These places are just loaded with little contaminations from various different activities that go on in daily life. For example, why would you pierce yourself in the bathroom? Oh, there's a good mirror there so I can see. Yes, and it's also every surface in that bathroom is covered with fecal matter. You know, fecal matter. Poop. When you're dealing with kitchens or living rooms, etc., you have people sneezing, you have people coughing, you have people that don't wash their hands and touch surfaces. It is just going to be contaminated to no end. If you don't believe me, get one of those lights, UV lights, turn all the lights out and kind of shine it around and see how many fun little stains you see. 3, you don't have the proper tools. Regardless of what you bought off Amazon, it's usually the most low-end, low-quality crap you can possibly find. Some of it isn't bad, and some of it I would suggest for changing jewelry. but a majority of it isn't the proper size, shape, and etc. to actually do the piercing correctly. Number 4, and then we'll move on to the next one. You don't have the proper supplies. You don't have the proper way of disinfecting the piercing. You don't have the proper single usage surgical marker or other method of marking that's not going to contaminate or poison you. You don't have gauze. You don't have, or sterile gauze. You don't have sterile cotton tip applicators. You don't have a sterile drape or even a dental bib to put down. You don't have the stuff. So you improvise. You use things like paper towels and et cetera, and washcloths and all kinds of stuff. And it just is not going to create a situation where it's going to be contaminant free. And if it bleeds too much, that one piece of gauze that you pulled out of the bathroom cabinet ain't gonna hack it. You need more. This brings us on to training. You haven't completed a piercing apprenticeship. I know a lot of people, and I saw this on a video recently, and I just about wanted to punch the screen. They stated, well, all an apprentice does is sit around and watch other people get pierced. No, that is not what you do during an apprenticeship. Yes, you observe. Yes, you try, you learn. Yes, you get an idea of technique. The most important part is what comes after the watching or in between the watching, is actually physically doing the piercing while being supervised by somebody who actually knows what they're doing. Unlike you, where you can watch a bunch of videos. I guess you got that part of the apprenticeship over with, but do you have somebody that's done thousands upon tens of thousands of piercings looking over your shoulder and telling you, oh yeah, you want to adjust that, you want to do that, here's what you're doing wrong, and can jump in at a moment's notice if there's any issues? So no, you do not know what you're doing. You have not done an apprenticeship. The next thing is you've had no training in cross-contamination prevention. You have no clue how to properly avoid the possibility of contaminating that wound because you don't have the training. You didn't take the course. You have no training on bloodborne pathogens, unlike a piercer would or a tattoo artist. You don't have a clear understanding of what they are and how to prevent contracting them into your body through that open wound that you're making. And then finally, you have no experience on what to do when things go wrong. Short of contacting a piercer or going to the internet and researching, you don't have the knowledge and expertise that it'll take to look at a piercing, figure out what's going on, and come up with a solution to fix the problem. Now the next segment, what could go wrong? The first thing is it's going to hurt a lot more than it would if you had a professional do it. We're skilled. We do this all the time. We're not going to hesitate. We're going to get that needle through smoothly and quickly. We're going to try to cause the least amount of trauma and damage to the tissue as we possibly can. You, on the other hand, have never done this before. You don't know how it's supposed to feel. And people tend to put it in a little bit and then stop, and then put in a little bit and stop, and then put in a little bit and stop. And what that does is it creates a crap load of pain and a crap load of trauma. And number 2, you piercing yourself is going to cause a great deal more trauma. As I mentioned earlier, you don't have that skill of how to angle that right, get it through there quickly. That's going to do the least amount of trauma. I don't know how to explain it anymore than you're going to cause a lot of trauma. And what trauma does is it increases the length of the healing period. It increases the amount of pain that you feel. It increases the soreness of the piercing, the swelling, etc. It's like starting off with a handicap. Number 3 is infection. That's the other thing that can go wrong. As I talked to you about earlier, you really don't have access to the proper equipment or the proper way to sterilize jewelry and etc. So you're probably going to introduce a foreign pathogen to that open wound. What will happen next is you'll get what's called an infection. Well, probably unless your body is extremely healthy or has a tolerance for it, will probably lead to a trip to a medical professional, some type of medication, possibly some lancing and draining and all kinds of other things. So that's another thing that can go wrong. Infections. Number 4, allergic reactions. Because you're using all this home remedy stuff to do all this stuff, and you have no idea how those chemicals affect you, and you have no idea what the jewelry is or what it's made out of, or any of this, you could have an allergic reaction to what you use to clean the area. You could have an allergic reaction to the jewelry itself, the piercing needle, the clamps, anything. And because you're using substandard materials to do this, like safety pins and etc., you're going to have an allergic reaction to the nickel, to the copper, and etc. that those type of instruments are made out of. And why aren't they made of implant-grade surgical stainless steel or titanium? Because they're not designed to pierce your body. They're designed to do things like, keep your pants up or, hold it in place while you sew it. They're not designed for this. They're designed for something else. This is a huge one. Number 5, improper placement. Because you don't have the skill or knowledge of anatomy and how piercings work, you're going to place that piercing in a position that doesn't work well or look well. This can lead to rejection, migration, bumps, all kinds of issues because your body won't accept the jewelry. Which moves us on to the next one, rejection. That's another thing that can go wrong, or migration. Rejection and migration is where your body decides that it's easier, or is able to, I guess, to push the jewelry out of the piercing or out of the body, thus completely rejecting it from the body. This will cause a lot of scarring, and this is why it's crucial that piercing is placed in the right angle and in the right location that it can be the jewelry can be supported. If you don't do it right, you're just going to end up with a big amount of scarring. Which brings on to number 7, scarring. A lot of people have this attitude that, oh yeah, I'll just pierce this, and if I don't like it or it turns out poorly, I'll just take the jewelry out. Here's the deal. You are permanently changing your body. It will create a scar. The less skilled you are at doing the piercing, the more likely it's going to be a much more noticeable scar. The wrong jewelry, more noticeable scar. Issues pop up. You have problems with bumps, hypertrophic scarring, etc. More scarring. And you're more prone to have those things happen because you're doing it yourself and you have no clue what you're doing. Number 8, permanently damaging tissue. Yes, it's possible, especially if you get an infection. If you are piercing in a dangerous area or an area where blood flow to the body is important, piercing through those blood vessels and all this other stuff can cause permanent problems. Number 9, I'm sure everybody's going to love this one, contracting a life-threatening virus. Yes, what I'm talking about is hepatitis and various other blood-borne pathogens and viruses that could kill you. Yes, if you can't properly clean and sterilize the equipment you're using, chances are you're going to introduce a virus into your body and cause an infection. The next one would be is that you pass one of those deadly viruses or other pathogens on to other people. You don't know how to clean up after yourself properly, and I doubt you have a hard surface cleaner to make sure that anywhere that anything that came out of you came in contact with stuff. Chances are if you have something, you're going to end up giving it to somebody else. Number 11, you could damage the area that the piercing is through to the point where it can never be pierced. Meaning that you cause so much trauma, so much damage, the piercing works out so poorly that you'll never be able to even have a professional pierce that area and not have issues with it. Number 12, you could hit a blood vessel and not be able to stop the bleeding and end up in the emergency room. I know, I've been kind of sarcastic and kind of a little bit, but you have to understand I'm very passionate about piercing. And to me, when somebody comes on YouTube and pierces themselves with no prior knowledge, experience, or any type of education, it is kind of saying that my art doesn't matter, my skill doesn't matter. So I get very angry about it and very passionate about it. Personally, I feel if YouTube wants to demonetize all these other videos that are dangerous, they should demonetize self-piercing videos, especially when you consider that most of these are done by people that are more of a style blogger who, does a whole video one week and then the next week is piercing their ears. That makes no sense. That'd be like you tuning into this channel on how to fix a diesel motor. I don't know anything about a diesel motor. I'm sure I could climb under there, and I probably own enough tools where I can tear it apart and break it really good, but I'm not going to be able to fix it because I don't have that skill. So, and I'm a big proponent of DIY as far as music, art, etc., and just making your life better through hobbies and etc. But there are certain things that are kind of the skill needed is well above DIY. And one of those things is piercing and tattooing and branding and all other forms of body art. So I hope at best I taught you how to self-piercing if you watched this long, or at least you learned something. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you like it because we like it when you like it. If you'd like to see more videos on body piercing and tattooing with a focus on education, click on the subscription and then ring that notification bell so that you're notified every single time we post something. If you like swag, you like t-shirts, you like tote bags because you have things to tote, you like stickers because you like putting them on stuff, and you like beach towels and etc., check out our merch store. There is a merch shelf down below the video. Also, there's a link directly to the store. Lots of different designs and lots of different products. Till next time, here's hoping all your piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I hope to see if your body piercing needs in the future. Stay safe, everybody. Stay healthy, and wash your goddamn hands.